If you've been with this channel over these past few years, it's no secret that I'm a sucker for coming-of-age films. A type of film that I thought I'd grow out of as soon as I finished my first year of college turned out to be a genre that I can say I genuinely love. There are a lot of bad coming-of-age films, so when I find a good one, it's pretty exciting. That's exactly how it felt when I got the chance to see Olivia Wilde's directorial debut, Booksmart. Booksmart is your pretty run-of-the-mill high school coming-of-age film in terms of a synopsis. Two high school girls who normally don't party decide to live it up on their last night of high school. We've heard it all before. But at the same time, this film felt like a breath of fresh air to me. None of it felt stale, I was genuinely entertained throughout its runtime, and I guess my main realization was that, while it may not be perfect, it felt like a classic. Understanding why it feels like a classic doesn't start with necessarily defining the term itself. Those films we can all agree are classics are obviously not the same. In fact, films we consider classics never feel as though they set out to achieve that goal. There's no checklist for fitting into that category. Classics receive that label for being naturally exceptional and feeling like a timeless watch that simultaneously works as a perfect representation of the time it was released. To me, this is exactly what Booksmart is. Within the first 15 minutes of the film, you're introduced to two teenage girls who aspire to go to the best college possible. Now, I'm obviously not a teenage girl, and even when I was that age, I wasn't this type of person. But this film's skill shines through in the sense that I still managed to find a sense of relatability in these characters, similar to how everyone is able to find some sense of relatability in something like Mean Girls and Superbad, despite the fact that there are few people out there who are on these extreme sides of the spectrum. Not to delegitimize the mastery of something like Lady Bird, 8th Grade, and Little Miss Sunshine, who strive on creating characters who feel like mirrors to us, but there's something to say about films that can make wider audiences connect to a specific type of person. Booksmart subtly taps into this relatability through its structure. Something I admire about the film is how each scene is, in a way, its own short film, all of which blend together in a way to create a plot that isn't ridiculously groundbreaking, but consistently entertaining. This technique accomplishes two things. One, it creates for a much more memorable and easy-to-reference film. No scene is necessarily similar to the other, they all stand on their own, to an extent where there are few repeated locations. That's a pretty rare and impressive aspect to find in a high school film where the world of the protagonist is so limited and repetitive. And two, it adds to the relatability aspect. When I look back at high school, and even when I was in high school, I don't look at my experience as a complex feature-length story where I need to remember a certain time and place because it was crucial to my growth. I literally look at it through distinct memories, through stories that I can continue telling throughout my life. Wilde captures that perspective on high school, not by telling one giant story, but by telling a series of events and memories, the same way most people approach a specific time of their life. Now, this approach isn't brand new. In fact, Superbad, as much as I hate to compare, deals with a similar structure. But not only is Booksmart approaching this structure from a different perspective, as Molly and Amy are nothing like Seth and Evan, but it uses this structure in a much more extreme and purposeful way. A giveaway being the excessive music placements, which is probably my main flaw with the film, but an aspect that allowed for this separation in events. Coming of age is not too different from horror in a sense that it's not hard to repeat the same story with the same format, just different characters. That's why it's really exciting when a film like Booksmart comes along. What Booksmart did was not only introduce a new perspective entirely to the coming-of-age genre, but it introduced a new way of telling these stories. Booksmart feels like a movie from 2019, not only through its topics that it sprinkles through the script, but through its tone. A tone that Olivia Wilde was able to achieve through her experience on set and her approach to filmmaking. It doesn't take much attention when watching the film to realize that this was probably a very fun set to be on. The amount of real energy coming out of the performances is enough proof that it was a comfortable environment to be in and take risks. By doing so, the film gives off a tone that feels alive and fun in a scenario where these characters are essentially spiraling into insanity. There's a sense of intelligence and self-awareness to their mistakes. No matter where you stand on certain issues, there's no debate that the world right now is tense, angry, and in some ways spiraling downwards. While a lot of great films capture this tension in authentic and impactful ways, Booksmart captures this sense of self-aware insanity in a way that feels controlled. And I'm not here to say the story is a metaphor for our current society, that's ridiculous. But the conflicting energy and tone coming out of this film is something that couldn't exist a few years ago and can be associated with this very specific period of insanity down the line. I see something in Booksmart that I rarely see in films. As I stated earlier, I don't consider this a perfect film, as it does have some flaws, but I do consider it an important film for not only the coming-of-age genre, but for film in general. It's a film full of rewatchability with a voice that feels new and original. I do think with everything it has going for it that it can go down as a classic with other acclaimed coming-of-age films, and the coolest part about it is, it seems like it had a pretty fun time in the process.